Hi everyone, we're live. Welcome to Freelance Business Week. My name is Joniet O'Neill. I'm one of the organizers for Miami. I'm really excited. I'm really happy that you're joining us today. We have an amazing session with Suzanne Ewell, and I will introduce her. Suzanne is the Chief Innovation Officer and Facilitator and Coach at the Mindful Entrepreneur. So please welcome Suzanne. Hi, Suzanne. How are you?
Hey, Jonieth. Hi, everyone. So thrilled to be here today.
Yes, we'll be having an hour session. We'll be talking about all things mindfulness. So I'll hand it over to Suzanne so we can get started with the session.
Beautiful. Welcome, everyone. And Jonieth, thank you, by the way, for this amazing opportunity. And for those of you who don't know, Jonieth is the reason that poster is behind me even. That happens to be from Miami-Dade College. And I thought that was a really appropriate thing because one of the things that's really important nowadays, and I used to be in the corporate world, but you'll learn about my story today. And now I actually am both an entrepreneur, and it's kind of my second round of freelancing. I started my life out as a freelancer at 15 years old. I ended up being in the corporate world around global television branding and marketing. And then I ended up back as a freelancer and have been now for almost 15 years, and I could not be happier. I absolutely love it. There are a lot of challenges on the road. And one of the reasons why mindfulness matters more now than ever is because everywhere we seem to turn, there's either bad news or a storm or unwellness or social injustice, whatever it happens to be. There's a lot of turmoil both on the external and on the internal. And mindfulness is this gorgeous tool that will actually help you be able to kind of manage the mayhem. I'm going to show you a little trick of mine that is sort of one of the very first things I talk about. And some of you who have kids or grandkids or nieces and nephews, you might recognize this. This is called a calming jar. And when it is not particularly calm, it looks like that. And I'm going to tell you, this is your mind right now on too much stimulation. You're kind of all chasing the shiny objects. And what you're going to learn today as we actually go through this next hour is how to let things settle. So what you'll eventually feel like is instead of just chasing all the shiny objects, which is called shiny object syndrome, you're going to actually be able to get into the mode where you're going to find some clear water. And I'm going to set this down next to me, and we'll note as we go through this morning how long it takes for the water to actually clear, because we are going to, by the way, practice mindfulness at least 3 times between now and the time that we leave. So one of the first things I want to talk to you about is what it is that I believe you see on your screen, which is the slide that's the very first slide about why mindfulness matters now more than ever. If you take a look at some of these benefits, you'll note that from the ability to impact and reduce your stress, to helping you remain calm, to even impacting how you lead and how you connect with others, mindfulness, as you can see by this image, is a very powerful practice. And it comes from an ancient piece of wisdom. And now it's taught with a lot of neuroscience in the practice. So what I want to show you actually is, for any of you who might have heard of 10% Happier, Dan Harris. He is actually the ABC News anchor that had a panic attack on air. And he's got a gorgeous little description of what mindfulness is and what mindfulness is not. So take a seat wherever you are, and let's take a look at what it is that Dan says why mindfulness is a superpower.
You may have heard this word mindfulness. It's become something of a buzz phrase of late. I'm going to give you one simple, serviceable definition, which is this. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. Imagine how useful this could be. Just as an example, driving down the road and somebody cuts you off in traffic. How do you normally react? I think most of us, we normally react by having a thought, which is, I'm pissed. And then what happens next? You immediately, habitually, reflexively inhabit that thought. You actually become pissed. There's no buffer between the stimulus and your reaction. with just a little bit of mindfulness, in that same situation, you might notice my chest is buzzing, my ears are turning red, I'm having a starburst of self-righteous thoughts, I'm getting angry. But you don't necessarily have to act on it and chase that person down the road, screaming at them with your kids in the back of the car thinking you've gone nuts. Now, you might be thinking, don't I need to get angry sometimes? Aren't I justified? I would say yes, but probably not as much as you think. The proposition here is not that you should be rendered by mindfulness into some lifeless, non-judgmental blob. The proposition is that you should learn how to respond wisely to things that happen to you rather than just reacting blindly. And that, my friends, is a superpower. How do you get it? The way to get it is through meditation. I believe that meditation and mindfulness are the next big public health revolution. In the 1940s, if you told somebody you were going running, they would have said, who's chasing you? But then what happened next? The scientists swooped in, they showed that physical exercise is really good for you, and now all of us do it, and if we don't, we feel guilty about it. And that's where I think we're headed with mindfulness and meditation. It's going to join the pantheon of no-brainers like brushing your teeth, eating well, and taking the meds your doctor prescribed for you. Let me just close by saying, mindfulness is not going to solve all of your problems. It's not going to render your life a nonstop parade of unicorns and rainbows. Nonetheless, this is a superpower and one that is accessible by you immediately.
So, my friends, you kind of have a little bit more of an idea of what it means to hear about and learn about mindfulness being about a training of your attention to what's actually happening to you. So one of the first questions I'm going to ask you today as we move through what is called both an emotional intelligence or EQ and mindfulness is for you to check in. Where are you right now? So many of us are kind of farming out what it means to be, where are you? We're literally using GPS to figure out how to move around in our own cities and our own towns. The real question is, where are you right now in your body and what is it that you're experiencing? So today you're going to learn how to slow your roll. You're going to learn how to identify your experience. You're going to get grounded with this practice of where am I? We're going to practice the anti-anxiety breath. We're going to learn how to pause, breathe, and smile. And we're going to listen to our bodies as we move through today's practice. So the first thing you're going to do today, and anytime you see this beautiful visual, this is a moment of mindfulness. So we're not going to just talk about it, we're actually going to practice. So anyone who wants to join and actually be here, not just to hear about mindfulness, to actually be mindful, I'm going to invite you to first take a really dignified seat about the way you are seated. I don't know if you're at home in an office, maybe you are actually in a co-working space, maybe you're in your car. Doesn't matter, but what you are going to do is take what is called having a strong back. Let your spine be like a stack of coins and a soft front. So you want to kind of roll the shoulders back a little bit. You want to let the chest rise just a little. You want to be kind of dignified. And the reason that you do that is because you're actually opening up your chest so that as you calm your mind, close your eyes, you aren't crunching over and making it very hard for your body to breathe. You're actually supporting yourself and being very alert and very present. So if you are comfortable in closing your eyes as you find that dignified seat, let your eyes gently close. And if for any reason that's not available to you, simply drop your gaze, come to a 45-degree angle, and just soften your focus. Let my voice guide you. To become mindful first, I'm going to invite you to gather your attention and become very present and aware of the seat that you are sitting upon, wherever you're making contact with something. Is it a really soft and cushy space? Is it maybe a more firm and hard kind of chair? You're not trying to change anything, just become mindful. Be aware. This is part of an awareness building practice. And bringing now your attention from where you are on that seat and making contact all the way down to your feet. Pause for just a moment and take note of your feet touching the earth. Maybe you're in a building that's on the ground floor. Maybe you're in an elevated building above the ground floor. Just become aware of the fact that it's not often we slow our roll enough to recognize that wherever you're seated, you're held right where you are by the gift of gravity. Literally taking just this moment to recognize that you don't need to do a thing. There is nowhere to go. And right now in this moment, there's nothing you need do. Simply be here, letting things settle. And taking note, if you can now, not intending to change a thing, simply becoming aware. Remembering that slide that said, where are you? Asking yourself now, where is my breath? Did I rush to get here and am I breathing way up in the top part of my chest? Or was I already really relaxed and am I breathing deeply in my belly? Check in. Just take note. It's a very funny thing that while breath is something we don't do consciously, when we do gather our attention and pay attention to our breathing, we realize, wow, I haven't been breathing in a very relaxed way. We'll learn about that later. Just simply be present right now. And for a moment, in a slight amount of silence, simply pay attention to what's here. I'm not inviting you to try to be thoughtless, because thoughts will come. Your mind secretes thoughts the same way that your mouth secretes saliva. So it's okay. But just pay attention for a moment or two in silence. And now I'm going to tell you that once I sound the meditation bell, begin to open your eyes and come back into the space together. Breathing a little deeper, opening the eyes, maybe stretching a little bit, being in the body and maybe offering your fingers and wrists a little bit of movement, maybe stretching the arms a little bit up, maybe to the sides, rolling those shoulders a little bit. All of that, funny enough, actually isn't just about mindfulness. It's about paying attention to the body. It's about actually being in your body. And the number one trick to getting mindful is becoming really attuned to what your body is experiencing in any given moment. So that little small practice, if you've never been in a mindfulness practice before, I'd love to have, if anyone feels like sharing, feel free to, like that was great, or I fell asleep, or I needed that, because it's all okay. None of it's wrong. But what we're going to talk about is why, as a freelancer, it's so darn important for us to be able to hack our skill set. Because those of us who are freelancers, I don't know if any of you have heard the phrase, are you the chief cook and bottle washer? Which means you're the person who turns on the lights and puts the sign out that says open for business. And you're the one who sweeps at the end of the day. Even if you're a purely virtual online entrepreneur, you still have to do all those things every single day. And learning what it is that the nature of the mind and the body experience, especially in the moments we're in. We talked about managing the mayhem, the external storms, and the internal weather. Learning how to hack your skill set becomes extremely important. We're going to learn today what it means to focus, to become more aware of how we are paying attention and what we're paying attention to, how to actually bring your heart to what it is you're doing, not just your head. Because in the Western world, we separate the head and the heart. And actually in the Eastern languages of Pali and Sanskrit, heart, mind are one word. They're not cut off at the neck. That's something we do in the Western world. And we're going to talk about how neuroplasticity actually helps us focus more. So if you take a look at this slide, you'll see this statement that the brain continuously is reorganizing itself by forming new neural connections, and that it's called neuroplasticity. This is fairly new scientific evidence. Many years ago, it was thought that by about 18 to 21, that the growth and the maturity of the brain was sort of set in stone. And the new information now is showing us that anytime you let new information into your mind, that you learn, if it's your grandparent doing Sudoku, or if it's someone learning how to do a new app, anything that you actually create is new stimulation, which is this neuron over here to do, is you will actually want to learn how to get this neuron over here to fire, so that this neuron over here can catch the signal. And when it does that, this neuron fires and this neuron wires actually create new neural networks in your mind. That neuroplasticity is about. So if you, for example, lived next door to me, and let's say you were going to walk across in the morning to have a cup of coffee with me. You walked across the grass. And that grass laid down just a little bit, but by the time the next morning came, the grass was worked back up again, because it wasn't a very deep walk in the grass. But let's say the second day you ride your bicycle. And when you ride your bike, it kind of pushes the grass. There's a little bit of a cut into the grass. And then the morning of the third day you're going to come over, you can see a little bit of a groove in the grass, but you decide to drive your car across the lawn. And now there's a really deep impression there. That third time that you do something as a neuron, as new stimulation, is what it is that helps create that interconnection of new neural networks. So that's anything that you do 3 times, 3 days, or 3 weeks. So when you see those 21-day challenges, that's why it's so important, because you're actually building neuroplasticity. And why does that matter? Because as you actually do what we just were talking about, there's this fascinating piece of research and evidence out of Harvard that tells us that when we're asleep, which is, if most of you are, 6 to 8 hours a day, we don't all sleep the same amount, but let's say you do sleep 6 hours out of 24, that leaves you 18 hours to actually be vertical. So you're not horizontal, you're vertical. And out of those 18 hours, 47% of the time, almost 50 of it, you are actually not present. And I love it. Stephanie just said she just did her yoga teacher training and literally creating new grooves in the science to back it up. That's amazing that you are on this path. What is so true about this new information from Harvard's Lazar lab is that 47% of the time that we're awake, that we're actually vertical, the mind is either over here in the past and we're ruminating about what it was that happened last night, or our mind is over here in the future and we're projecting and obsessing, and we literally think about that, are missing almost half of our lives by not being present. The Harvard data showed that we literally have what is called a wandering mind. And that when our mind is wandering, it's an unhappy mind. And why do I know this is true? Try this on for size. How many of you, you're working on a new project, or you're collaborating with someone, or maybe you're quietly tuning everyone out and you're working on a press release or a pitch deck or a client proposal, or you're jamming on what you're going to be doing for your next talk. Everything you tune out and you're just kind of in this mode where your fingers are flying or you're dictating, you're in the flow. That is what happens when you are in not a wandering mind, and the mind is happy in that place. Now think about one of those days where every ping that comes in, your mind goes off in that direction, and you hear the people walking down the hall, and you can hear the noise in the neighbor on the other side of the wall. That is also another way that the mind wanders, and it makes us very unhappy. So learning just how to pay attention, that alone can literally impact our happiness. So once we actually have an awareness around what this is all about, this is when we can stop, take a pause, and actually think, what does it mean to be mindful? And as I mentioned at the beginning, mindfulness is an ancient practice. It originally came from part of the Buddhist practices. And if you want to look at it in kind of 5 fingers, I call it how to pay attention on purpose, in the moment, non-judgmentally. And if you look at this one, the most important word in there for me is in the purple blue box, with curiosity. And what does that mean? It means being here in this moment. Okay, what's here? I'm paying attention. I'm on purpose is that issue of I'm not wandering. Like I'm tuning out the noise or the chatter or the incoming emails. I'm tuning that all out. So I'm purposely present. I'm in this moment. I'm actually in this moment. And you are being, and this is probably the biggest challenge for most of us, almost all of us, whether you practice mindfulness or not. The nature of the mind is to have anything that comes into the mind automatically create some kind of a hook. I like it, I don't like it. I agree, I don't agree. Learning to be non-judgmental, which is, oh, this is what's here. Not drawing a conclusion, not getting triggered, not engaging in some way where you create judgment. Judgment chews up a lot of mental capacity and mental energy. Not to mention, most of us have what I call a DOJ, and I don't mean the Department of Justice. I mean the Department of Judgment. And most of us have a pretty big space for that DOJ inside of our heads. So as you learn to practice mindfulness and you learn to be non-judgmental, you'll realize, oh, this is about seeing differently. And then when you engage your curiosity and you actually go, oh, what's here? Oh, I'm feeling really triggered by this conversation. Oh, what is it in me that is having a difficulty? Or, wow, I'm present to my colleagues' challenge right now. Like they're having a really hard time getting this deadline met. Boy, I can feel their difficulty. That is a way to be very present with someone. So these 5 things, by the way, take sometimes a lifetime of practice. There are days I'm able to do 4 out of the 5. There's days I'm able to do 1 out of the 5. And there's days where I'm caught up so much in the mental chatter and the monkey mind, sometimes I can't do any of them. But when you do practice, you get a lot closer to being able to find a way to actually stay present. So we're going to do our second practice now. And just like before, I'm going to invite you to do what I shared was a dignified seat. Kind of don't be here in the practice like this. Be upright. Let that spine be like a stack of coins. Have what's called a soft back or strong back and a soft front. So you're available in the front, but you're alert and relaxed. I'm going to invite you to let you close your eyes. And if for any reason that's not available, just let that gaze fall to a 45-degree angle, soften your focus, and let my voice be your guide. In your first quick few seconds of your second time of practice today, check in once more. Quickly scan the body and note, is my breath any more deep? Am I feeling a little more relaxed and present? And this time we're going to actually practice something called PBS. Pause, breathe, smile. And this practice, first and foremost, I'm going to take you on a guided mindful journey with me. Right now, checking in on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being not very tense and 5 being very tense and anxious. Just take note of where you're at. Maybe you're a 1, maybe you're a 5. Nothing wrong, non-judgmental, just get curious and pay attention. And now I'm going to invite you to imagine yourself going to the grocery store. You're there to help a friend who's not feeling well. You are going to get some things that you need to get in and get out. It's a quick drive-by and you can't spend a lot of time. You're doing a favor, but this friend's done a lot for you. So out of kindness and compassion, they asked if you could stop by and grab something like ginger ale for their tummy and maybe a few other things because they're not feeling well. You get what you need and you go to the 10 items or less line. And in front of you is someone who clearly has at least 3 times as many as 10 items. You keep looking at your watch. You're very aware that you have to get where you need to go, but you also have to finish this trip and you've got to stop at your friend's house. And I want you to feel and imagine and project yourself into this experience and see how aggravated on a scale of 1 to 5 you start to feel. Let into your body that feeling of, oh my God, I got to get there. Oh my God, this person's got 3 times as many items. Oh my God, why did I pick this line? And let yourself really feel the sensations of whether your neck gets tense, whether your breathing shortens, and call out a number internally again on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being not very tense, 5 being pretty aggravated. And now you're going to engage in the practice. The first thing you're going to do is pause. Take note. Pay attention. Oh, I'm really aggravated right now. Let me see if I'm able to just be here for a moment. And now I'm going to teach you what's called the anti-anxiety breath. And you're going to breathe in through your nose for a count of 6. Hold it for 1. And press your lips together like a straw, pushing out with a little bit of noise. Together, breathing in on a count of 6 through the nose. Hold. Push out through the mouth like a straw. Turn the corner, breathing in through the nose for a count of 6. Hold. Push out, pressing the lips together like a straw for a count of 8. Turn the corner and do that one more time. In to 6. Hold for 1. Now push out and make some noise in wherever your space is, pursing those lips like a straw. Now let your mouth and your lips turn up the corners into a smile. Check in again. You're still in the line. Were you a 5 and has it dropped to a 4? Might you have gone down to a 3? Paying attention and being present, and this practice is called PBS, allows you not to flip your lid, which is what we're going to talk about next. And that is actually what happens when you are not particularly present in terms of your emotional intelligence. And one of the things that I'm going to share with you here as you open your eyes and you're back into the room is why it is that it's so necessary for you as a freelancer, as a collaborator on teams, because freelance can mean direct to client, or it can mean working with your client's teams, and sometimes it can mean you're one of many freelancers on a project. Your capacity for what is now called EQ, and you'll note right there self-awareness, which is just what we did in that pause, breathe, smile practice, was develop some more self-awareness. What is arising in me? What emotion is present? How aggravated am I? Can I manage the inner weather of what this is like standing in the 10 items or less line with 5 when the person in front of me has 30? Your capacity to understand your emotions and to be present and not distracted actually now shows that 58% of success in a lot of job circumstances, as well as a freelancer, mean that you will have more of an ability to be part of the success and the solution instead of part of the problem. And emotional intelligence has the component that we just practiced around self-awareness. Clearly, you need to have some empathy for the person in front of you, because standing there and fueling your anger will do nothing but make your experience in line all the more difficult. It won't harm them one bit, just you. And so this is one of the reasons why, when you actually learn how to become more emotionally aware using mindfulness and developing your self-awareness, you'll have this opportunity to be able to stay present. I love Wendy just shared with us this beautiful comment that there are many opportunities to practice this anti-anxiety breath in today's COVID-19 world. Oh, my, yes, there are. It could be traffic. It could be at home. It could be when you peruse social media. It could be when you watch the news. Anything, anytime you feel that hook of something calling you to want to engage in rage or engage in anger, and not that those are wrong, because they're just emotions that are particularly charged, but sitting in that pool too long can actually be of detriment to your health. So Wendy, you're spot on about the many instances that can help us. This is just a little bit of background about who I am. My current iteration, I am actually a speaker and a coach. I work with Babson College's Women Innovating Now Lab, which is all about startups and female founders and entrepreneurs. I have a radio show called Mindful Mornings Miami, and I am a former global TV executive. I actually worked with projects that, based in Miami, were launched in 47 countries around the globe. I lived on a plane 3 weeks out of the month. And I reached a stage where I recognized, and I had some very challenging health experiences, including an unruptured aneurysm that sent me to the emergency room, that I was living in autopilot. I was very much on the gas. And if I wasn't on the gas, then I was completely on the brake. And so that whole autopilot of the dance between always on or always off, or always on or always off, burned me out. And that is how I found myself putting my tush on a cush, as I call it, and learning this practice that I'm sharing with you today. And I now actually both teach and train, and I work mindfully in the marketing space. And you can see some of my other clients here include the Kellogg School of Management, Venture Cafe at the Cambridge Innovation Center, United Way, BizHack Academy, and several others. And I also am going to be, at the end of this program, offering you a free practice. So I hope you get it. It's the anti-anxiety practice. And in about 2 weeks, I'll be announcing something very powerful that, if you do go follow me on social, you'll get the opportunity to participate in. And I'm only going to tease because I don't want to mention it yet, but it's going to be a lot of opportunities between now and the time of the election to practice every single week together. Find a way to pause, and also find a way to be in the space around the need for social justice, the need for all of the systemic racism and anti-Blackness that is built into our structures in this country. We'll be talking about climate justice, and we'll be talking about all of that at the intersection of mindfulness. Now, my friends, you're going to reach the third opportunity to practice. And this one is going to be something very, very dear to me. So now that you've done this twice, you know how to take a dignified seat. So do that. Have a strong back, have a soft front. Let your spine be like a stack of coins. Leave your busyness and your business at the door. And before you close your eyes and let my voice be the guide, take one very long look at that beautiful image before you, because I want you to have this in your mind as we practice. Let those eyes close. Let my voice be your guide. And if you feel like it, because this is the practice itself, let them partially stay open. Whatever works best for you. There's no right or wrong. But this practice is going to be called Unpack the Backpack. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of the land, of the earth, right here where this dock meets the water. And on your back, you have a backpack. And in it are some special things about being human. And you're going to journey to the end of this dock together with me. And as we walk from the earth, from the land, onto the dock, over the water, I want you to take note, moving into this place of peace before you, whether you see this as a sunrise or a sunset. Imagine hearing these beautiful birds. Maybe there's a slight breeze. Bring as many sensations of the felt sense of what this space is like. Maybe you even smell some pine from the forest that's on the land that you just left when you walked onto the dock. Let in as many feelings and sounds and sensations as possible. And now, privately, for you, identify in that backpack the 3 most prominent emotions that are alive, awake, and present in your current experience of life at this moment. Maybe it's tension. Speak that to yourself. Maybe it's frustration. Maybe it's joy. Maybe you've received some good news. Simply identify 3 things that you're carrying around with you today. Doesn't matter what they are. Just identify them. Keep walking. Stroll on the dock all the way to the end. Make your way now all the way out in this body of water. And as you begin to take that backpack off your right shoulder and your left shoulder, and you begin to take your seat and let your legs swing at the edge of this dock, put the backpack next to you. Unzip the backpack. And take out of the backpack the most powerfully charged of those 3 emotions. No judgment. Remember, we're curious, we're present, we're aware, we're non-judgmental. If it's frustration, give it a place on the dock next to you. If it's happiness, give it a place on the dock next to you. If it's anger, give it a place on the dock next to you. And look out now at this space. This practice is called name and claim, which means you don't run and you don't numb from the human emotive experience. You sit and you stay. You allow some space. A lot of times those emotions that we carry around on our backs in a backpack are like a wild stallion that we try to lock up in a tiny corral. And when you actually give them space, like that wild stallion, you let it breathe. You let it roam. Rather than denying it or ignoring it, sometimes all it needs is for you to pay attention. Oh, anger, I see you. This is what's here now. Oh, happiness. How surprising with everything going on. I'm happy. Allow. Simply let it be. The other beautiful part of this practice excuse me, is that if you had a cup of water with you and a tablespoon of salt, and you put that tablespoon in that cup, you would have a very salty swallow if you drank it. If you took that tablespoon of salt and let it into the body of water before you at the end of the dock with you and your most prevalent emotion, it would dissipate and dissolve, and you probably couldn't taste it. So making space is important. And in a bit of quiet for a moment, acknowledge whatever that most prevalent emotive experience is, and ask it, what would you like me to know right now? Ask the anger or the happiness, what would you like me to be aware of right now? Many times when we actually offer that which is wounded the energy of our attention, it dissipates. And if it does not, there is also beautiful proof that most emotions, if we don't feed them too deeply, will come and pass between 90 seconds to about as long as 90 minutes, depending on how much we feed them. Now I'm going to invite you to actually stand up again on the dock. Put your hands on your hips. Take the fearless girl pose on Wall Street in front of the bull. Be like the Titanic, Rose. Imagine this dock as the front of a great big vessel. The wind in your face. You powerfully standing up, no matter if there's anger present or happiness, that you can stay present and that you can stand up and you can still be strong even when there are challenging, difficult emotions that you've now named and you've claimed them, which can very often be a way to tame them because you've unpacked your backpack. Now turn around, walking away from this pocket of peace, gently savoring that you are leaving behind what it was that was charged and making noise and rumbling around in that backpack of emotions. Leave it at the end of the dock. Walk now free, unfettered, without the backpack, back to where you started. Fresh, beginning again, and putting down the weight and the charge of the activation of those emotions. Gently open your eyes and begin to come back into the space. And maybe take a nice big. It's so lovely to be able to not only breathe in and out and let that experience be with where it is, but we're circling back to kind of where we started at the top. And we're going to open it up now for questions, just as Joni F. has shared with us. And basically, if you've always wanted to ask a mindfulness trainer, what is my path or how does it work? I'm also a heart math coach, so I also teach, heart rate variability, and that HRV is all about coherence between the heart and the head. So I love it, Wendy. I'm so thrilled you came. I'm really glad that you're here. What a delightful practice. You're so welcome. I love unpacking my backpack. The idea of naming, claiming, and taming emotions for me, I'll share very, very personally, did not come easily. I grew up in a very Dutch German family with a father who was a Staff Sergeant Marine. And our home family motto was grin and bury it. It was very tough. And so anything that felt I'm scared or I'm angry or any of those things, we were really encouraged in my home experience. It took me many years to understand the wisdom of your emotions, because here's the beautiful thing. Your issues are in your tissues, and your body's very wise. You know, when you get that felt sense that, oh, there's somebody walking behind me on that corner on the way home from the grocery store, and I can feel it. Or you're crossing the street and it seems like a car comes out of nowhere. We have very attuned nervous systems, but our world, and in the Western world, and in my case, growing up the way I did, it wasn't that it was wrong. It's just the way I was raised. I was taught to ignore those cues and those emotional responses in me, to override them, to grin and to bury it. So if anyone has questions, we're here. We're here for you. I'd love to hear what you might want to share. And I'm going to grab a little sip of something to wet my throat. And I'd love to have anyone ask any questions, or maybe share, how was this for you today? We have a quiet group. You know what I'd love to know? Would anyone share, I practice mindfulness? Let us know. Or this was different for me today. Or maybe I know that we had one young lady share that she's doing her 200-hour yoga teacher training. I would love to hear from any of you. Do you have a daily practice? I will share with you my real moment that was a pivotal experience. Is as a freelancer, I had landed the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation as a client, and I was living in Miami, and I was working in Ethiopia. So imagine that. There I was living on one continent, and I was working in another continent, and my mother up in Michigan, this is now 7 years ago, contracted cancer. And for 15 months before she did eventually transition, I basically bounced between Miami, Ethiopia, and Michigan. So imagine that, you know, trip and the hour change and the continents and the culture shifts. And I basically, when it was all done, relate greatly to Dan Harris's story, because I actually burned out. And so that's what helped me put my tush on a cush, is that was an ER visit that literally brought me to the practice. Shannon, I'm so thrilled that you brought up that this was very different for you, and that you have a couple of apps. I actually teach on one of them. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Wellness Coach, but I'm on Wellness Coach, which is a workplace wellness app. And we actually do live mindfulness training. So you're not just listening to a voice, and it's not just a talking head, and it's not just graphics. And a lot of people, by the way, do tend to kind of use those as a great way in the door. Like they do a 5-minute practice, they do a 10-minute practice. What I'm really going to encourage any of you today is that you actually learn to take the opportunity, and the offering I'm going to be announcing very, very soon. So get my free meditation today, and you'll get in the email to actually be able to get the announcement about this. It's going to be a 6-week training. And one of those will be actual mindfulness practices, because this is an ancient practice. And when you learn to do it with regularity and consistency, that's where you'll get the big neuroplastic benefits of this neuron firing together and wiring together with this one. And I'll also be doing a weekly gathering. So if you can't commit to a 6-week training, which by the way, I do recommend, because that is, as one of you just said, it's very different to achieve consistency. It's very, very interesting. I love it. I love it. Cheryl, thank you, by the way. I'm going to acknowledge this right off the bat. You're experiencing heavy smoke from the wildfires. And I imagine around the topic of breathing that you are experiencing this. We're in a really powerful time as humans right now, whether we're freelancers or not, that whether it's George Floyd having no ability to breathe, whether it's what you're experiencing with difficulty of breathing. 3 weeks ago here in Miami, where I'm based, the fish in Biscayne Bay couldn't breathe and thousands of them died because the bay is depleted of oxygen. Mindfulness could not be a better practice to offer yourself some nourishment. And look at this. Here we have community. Livio is already supporting Cheryl. That's community right there. Let's take just a moment. I'm going to actually give everyone not just the anti-anxiety breath practice. I'm going to give everyone just a really beautiful practice to do anytime breathing might be a challenge. So let's just do a little impromptu here. Take a dignified seat. Let those shoulders roll back. This is going to be a nourishment breath practice. And Wendy, I'm with you because you and I share devotional readings in the morning. So I'm so thrilled that you shared that practice with all of us here. Invite you to take your right hand and place it on your heart. Take your left hand and place it on your belly. Keep your eyes open. Feel the sensation of your own touch. We actually are touching our phones, my friends, 250 to 2,600 times a day, if you can believe it. We touch those we love and ourselves much less. And you putting your hand on your heart and your hand on your belly gives you an instantaneous shot of oxytocin, which is the same sensation that you get when you hug someone, when a mama breastfeeds her baby, when you make love with someone. Oxytocin and this beautiful opportunity for us to self-soothe. And we're going to do a square breath. We're going to breathe in for a count of 4 and breathe out for a count of 4. Nose, mouth. In for 4, out for 4. In for 4, out for 4. Bring your awareness now to the sensations of your hands as you breathe in for 4, out for 4. Let's do this in silence for 1 or 2 cycles. Take note what it feels like to support yourself with your hands, to help yourself land here now with a gentle touch. And listen to this beautiful poem written by Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes. You may be kept down. You may be kept from rising, but no one can keep you from lifting your heart toward heaven. Breathe again for 1 more cycle of in through the nose for 4, out for 4, and a last round, and out for 4. Check in again. Go back to the top of the hour, which was literally almost 60 minutes ago, Where on the scale of 1 to 5 are you? Where are you? Did you start here all the way up at the hot 5 alarm chili fire of a 5? Are you closer to a 2? This question and this attention you've been paying and the awareness you've been building is what it means to be mindful. The benefits, as we started out at the very beginning, are numerous and very, very powerful in terms of what it is that you actually have the ability to touch into and practice at pretty much any time. You don't have to be any special place. You've figured out now you can do it in the grocery store in the 10 items or less line. I can do it and often have done it in Miami traffic, because it can be particularly challenging. I also want to share, because I said I would at the beginning and I forgot to tell you guys, what does it look like when you actually let all those shiny objects calm down in a practice? This is what it looks like instead of all of that noisy things blurring around in your brain like the monkey mind. All of it settles down to the bottom and you get clear water. And I would share with you that I do that practice. And this is, by the way, my calming jar for my desk. I use it often. I do this practice because it allows me to be particularly creative. And if you're a freelancer, I think you'll relate to this. There's an often needed pool of creativity, because as freelancers, we're quite often creating things from scratch. Mindfulness, if nothing else for me, my actual mindful meditation practice has brought me immense ideas of creativity. So that would probably be my last little comment. And I know that we're winding down here. And I just love to say, if there's anyone who has any final little commentary in chat, I just want to thank all of you who came, the new faces and the known faces, as well as a big shout out to all the folks who helped put it together. Joni F. and Eileen, I'm just honored to be here. And remind you to sign up. There's a free meditation there for you. And you'll also get a free PDF to show you how to do that anti-anxiety practice. Thank you, Joni F.
Thank you, Suzanne. This was great. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this session. We hope you enjoy it. Yes, we have more comments. We'll have them here. Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie, for joining us. If you have any final comments, any final questions for Suzanne, you can send them right now. We're really happy that you're on Freelance Business Week. We're going to have an amazing week. You can check out the schedule and see the other sessions that we have. We'll be having other sessions around mindfulness as well, so you can check it out. More comments here. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome, Eileen. Glad that you're here. That's great. So glad you enjoyed it.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good one. See you soon.
Have a great one. Be mindful.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.